All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we're going through Proverbs 8, verse 12. So let's get it. Wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. That's all we're going through today. I want to talk a little bit more about prudence. So, a couple episodes back, when I was going through verses 4 through 6, I talked about prudence as being discipline. And it's because I read the definition on Google where it was like the ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason. And me, being a person who is developing discipline in his life through the posting of this daily podcast and through doing 75 hard right now, I saw discipline and it jumped out at me, right? But that's not necessarily what it means. It's talking about the ability to govern and discipline oneself by the use of reason. And then it goes on to say skill and good judgment in the management of affairs. And I was reading verse 8 here, or not verse 8, verse 12, sorry. And it says, I wisdom dwell with prudence. And it didn't make sense for me for wisdom to dwell with discipline. So I was like, maybe I was interpreting prudence incorrectly. And so then I looked up a little bit more about prudence, and it's not called, but it means sense and shrewdness, not necessarily discipline. And so when you looking at prudence in the definition I initially based it off, discipline jumped out to me, but it's governing and disciplining oneself by the use of reasoning. So you have skill, you have good judgment in the management of your affairs, you have good sense, and you are a good judge of character. Like when you talk about shrewdness, it is that the quality of having or showing good powers of judgment. So literally prudence is the ability to judge a situation well and then make a decision based off of that. And I do think discipline has a part in that, but it is not the main piece. For example, if you judge a situation correctly, oftentimes it will lead you to discipline and needing discipline in a situation. But prudence in and of itself is not discipline. It's more around sitting with the truth in verse 12. So, wisdom, dwelling with prudence. Wisdom here is sitting with sound judgment of a situation. And in my head, sound judgment of a situation is when you can truthfully look at a situation and judge it correctly. And so that's what wisdom is doing here. And that's what we should all aspire to do. And that's why my interpretation of this is that it is important to sit with the truth in a situation and not with your interpretation of the truth in a situation. Because once wisdom dwells with prudence, dwells with this good judgment over situations and circumstances, knowledge and discretion is found. So, if we want knowledge, if we want discretion, we need to sit and develop good judgment, which means sitting with the truth of a situation at its core. What's the entrepreneurial application of this? Well, the first thing I want to note is that wishful thinking can get in the way of a lot of us. And this is not just for entrepreneurs. Like we're all very wishful. You know, they're the big three categories in our life: health, wealth, and relationships. A lot of us are wishful, have wishful thinking when it comes to our health. We're like, yeah, it's fine if I eat this brownie every night and am eating a 500-calorie surplus, but I'm not going to gain weight. That's wishful thinking. You will gain weight. That sugar probably will not do your body good. It's fine if I don't drink water. I won't have a headache by 3 p.m. Yes, you will have a headache by 3 p.m. Happens to me frequently when I don't drink water. And so that's some wishful thinking in health. In relationships, it can look like, yeah, I don't need to take the time to celebrate my wife. I don't need to take the time to love her how she wants to be loved because I'm choosing to love her how I want to love her. And she should receive that how it is meant to be received from my end, right? That's wishful thinking because you're not thinking about the other person. You're thinking about what you want and what you're wishing for. And then that is affecting how you guys interact. So, some wishful thinking in wealth comes to like, oh, this is going to be a great product for the market. This is going to be a great service for the market. And then never actually marketing it and getting feedback on it. That's wishful thinking. And then you're just like, well, why did I fail? Well, it's because you were basing your action on wishful thinking. You didn't have an accurate judgment of the situation. So wishful thinking gets in the way of a lot of us, and we hold our ideas close and don't test them to keep the dream alive. That's what I was just talking about when it came to marketing and not doing marketing well so that you can get that feedback. And so it's important to get your ideas out there and to be really honest about what you're saying so that the people around you develop a good community so that they can call you out on your wishful thinking and then help you look at the facts to A, see how the market's responding if you're an entrepreneur, but B, look at the facts of your life to see if you need to switch some stuff up or change your perspective on some scenarios in your life. And so, where has this shown up in my life? My recent kick with how important marketing is. It's literally all there is. Like, you could have the best product, but if nobody knows about it, it's not selling, right? And so, specifically with this podcast, like, I'm focused on, okay, how can I market this podcast and how can I actually have a back end service that is clear to offer to people? And then how can I get my event out there in the local area and have a back end service to offer to people, right? And how can I market that, get that out there so eyeballs see it and they either say yes or say no, and I tweak accordingly. And I'm saying it's literally all there is because for a long time, I'm like, oh, I'm doing good stuff. And then people compliment me on my stuff, but I'm like, just not enough people know about it. And this has popped up time and time again in my life because I need to learn that eyeballs are important. If you have to pay to get eyeballs, if you have to put in sweat equity to get eyeballs, do whatever you need to do, but get those eyeballs on whatever you're trying to sell or whatever you're trying to do. Because more often than not, people are going to like it if it's coming from the heart. They just need to know about it. And they're probably not gonna like it on the first time. Like, marketing often takes 5, 6, 7, 10 touches, 14 touches before people are like, okay, I'm ready to transact with that person. So you can't fully trust the criticism you get, is what I've learned, until you get to the point where you have a decent number of eyeballs. For example, just testing out, you can listen to one person here, one person there. But once you're really getting serious about getting your product out there, if you have a sample size of 10 people to give you feedback and 2 of them hate it and 8 of them love it, that's not enough to be like, okay, well, that means out of 1,000 people, 800 are going to love it and 200 are going to hate it. It's like you may not have your targeting right. There could be so many things that are wrong that you just need that big sample size, large amount of eyeballs to get a large amount of feedback. And then it makes that feedback significant, right? I will say though, if you give it to 10 people and 10 people say it sucks, it probably sucks, right? But if you give it to 10 people and one person says it sucks, a lot of us have a tendency to dwell on that one person. When it's like the other 9 liked it or loved it, right? So let's focus on that. Where do I want this to show up in my life? Naturally, in consistent, intentional reflection time. And so we're talking about how wisdom dwells with prudence. Well, in my head, dwelling with prudence is like sitting with the truth in a situation and then making good judgments based on that truth. And I say sitting with truth because I feel like it's really making good judgments in a situation, but I feel like it's hard to make a good judgment based on falsehood. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That didn't come from the text. I just feel like truth is important to wisdom, right? Um, but yeah, so when you intentionally sit down and reflect, oftentimes I'll make quick snap reflections like, oh, this isn't working, so I need to change this. But I didn't actually sit and think about why it's not working or how I can make it work better because I'm really on the action train, which is great. But Warren Buffett reads for 6 hours per day and will make one decision that'll make him billions, right? And so for those who are stuck in analysis paralysis, yeah, take action right now and take it recklessly because you're not taking action to get results. You're taking action to become a person who doesn't bow down to fear. But once you're not bowing down to fear anymore, you need to move with a little bit more prowess, with a little bit more intellect, right? A little bit more sense, keeping in the vibe of Proverbs. And so that consistent, intentional reflection time will help you sit down, analyze the facts of the situation, really get to the core of the truth of the customer experience. What's your sales doing? What's your marketing going? How do your customers feel about it? Are they sending out referrals? Are they giving you referrals? All this stuff, right? Um, Sit with that and then adjust accordingly. That's what that intentional reflection time is for to me. And you can have some key performance indicators, KPIs, that will help you um, know what to reflect on and know what to adjust. And then you can reflect on what are the things that I need to be measuring, right? Am I measuring the right thing? Is it producing the right outcome for what I want? And so that's a real businessy application. That's why I want consistent, intentional reflection time on my end. But it's the same thing with life. Like, how am I feeling about my marriage right now? You know, is the intimacy there? Is the communication there? Is my acts of service and words of affirmation there? You know, you can measure that and you can choose to love your spouse like that in that reflection time. How do you feel about your health? Am I sitting at 11% body fat? Did I work out 5 times this week? Whatever you're measuring, go ahead and check that out and reflect on it, right? And so it's not just entrepreneurship. This is everything in life. You need to sit with the truth in situations and then make good judgment based on that truth. And how can you guys apply this to your life? Well, I just told you, start reflecting on the truth that is in your life right now or the lack thereof. So a lot of us are operating on false pretense. And that sounded cool, but I don't know if I used that right. Anyway, we're acting on stuff that is just not true, right? There are these lies, these limiting beliefs, and we act on them every day. And so you need to start reflecting, are the beliefs I'm acting on, are the thoughts, are the feelings, are the actions, is all of that based on truth? Or is that based on some idea I have of the truth that is actually false? And as you reflect on that, you can pivot towards acting more on truth, towards seeing more truth in the world, and then adjust your actions, feelings, thoughts, and beliefs accordingly. There we go. That's what we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.